on up, please. And when you reach the witness stand, if you'll do me a favor before you have a seat, turn and face the deputy and raise your right hand to swear you in, okay? Okay.
Now, when you raise your hand, please, you solemnly swear to testimony about the portion I do. Doctor, please take a seat, state and spell your name for the record, please.
Oh, sorry. Dr. Carol, C-A-R-O-L, Terry, T-E-R-R-Y.
Dr. Terry, good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
Can you tell the court where you're currently employed?
Well, I am currently employed as the Chief Medical Examiner for Gwinnett County.
Okay. And what are your duties as a Chief Medical Examiner?
Well, I am a forensic pathologist, and my duties involve investigating deaths that are reportable to my office under the Georgia Death Investigation Act. So these are deaths that are sudden, unexpected, unexplained, or due to non-natural causes. And as the medical examiner, my duties involve determining cause and manner of death. Cause of death is what it sounds like, what caused the person to die at this point in time. Manner of death is a way in which we categorize deaths for purposes of reporting on the death certificate.
Okay. And where did you work prior to being employed at Gwinnett County?
Prior to coming to work at Gwinnett County, I worked as an independent contractor for Dr. Gerald T. Gawitt, and that's G-O-W-I-T-T, who is the Chief Medical Examiner for DeKalb County. And not only did we handle cases for DeKalb County, but we also covered medical examiner cases for Hall, Henry, Rockdale, and White counties.
Okay. And prior to that, where did you work?
Prior to that, I worked at the Fulton County Medical Examiner's Office as an associate medical examiner.
Okay. And are you licensed to practice medicine in the state of Georgia?
Yes, I am.
And when did you become licensed?
1992.
Can you go over for the jury your education and training?
Yes, I can. In 1986, I graduated from Emory College of Emory University in 3 years with a double major. I have a Bachelor of Arts in Religion and a Bachelor of Science in Biology. From 1986 to 1990, I attended Emory University School of Medicine, where I received my Doctor of Medicine degree.
Hang on, I'm so sorry to interrupt you. I'm just going to ask if you'd slow down a little bit.
Okay.
I want to make sure the court reporter can keep up, and you're a little bit of a fast talker.
Oh, sorry.
Thank you. That's okay. Go ahead. Please go ahead.
Thank you. So I am a medical doctor. From 1990 to 1995, I did a residency in pathology in the Emory University affiliated hospital system. Pathology, broadly stated, is the study of disease. And my 5-year residency involved a combined program of anatomic and clinical pathology. Anatomic pathology is tissue-based pathology and involves diagnosing disease states from tissues, such as biopsies, organs, or tissues removed from living people, as well as autopsy specimens. Clinical pathology is the laboratory medicine aspect of pathology and involves such areas as chemistry, hematology, microbiology, and blood banking. During the last year of my 5-year residency, I was allowed to work exclusively at the Fulton County Medical Examiner's Office in a subspecialty of pathology, forensic pathology. And forensic pathology is the medical legal investigation of death. So, after the completion of my residency in 1995, I did an additional year of study in forensic pathology, also at the Fulton County Medical Examiner's Office. And this year of training outside of the residency was referred to as a fellowship year. And I did my fellowship year at the Fulton County Medical Examiner's Office in forensic pathology from 1995 to 1996. But because I already had a year of experience in that office, I was essentially treated like a junior attending and got to supervise other individuals in training as they rotated through the office. Following the completion of my fellowship in 1996, I stayed on staff at the Fulton County Medical Examiner's Office as an associate medical examiner. And that's where we picked up. I worked at the Fulton County Medical Examiner's Office from 1996 to 2004. 2004, I went to work for Dr. Gawitt in DeKalb as an independent contractor and worked for him until the beginning of 2006. In February of 2006, I was awarded the medical examiner contract in Gwinnett County and took over doing the medical examiner duties for Gwinnett County. In Gwinnett County, the medical examiner position is not a county department, it is a contracted position. And my contract comes up for renewal every 5 years where I have to rebid for the contract. And as I said, I was awarded that in February of 2006 and have maintained it to the current time. As we said, I'm licensed to practice medicine in the state of Georgia and have been since 1992. I am triple board certified by the American Board of Pathology in all 3 areas of pathology in which I have trained and studied: anatomic, clinical, and forensic pathology. I have personally performed between 6,800 and 6,900 autopsies. I've supervised individuals in training in approximately 700 additional cases. In my career, I have examined over 10,000 bodies because not everybody gets an autopsy. There's some bodies that I just do an external examination on and maybe draw specimens from to do additional testing, such as drug screen or other types of laboratory tests. And I have been tendered as an expert witness in the Superior Courts of Georgia over 455 times.
Your Honor, this time the state will move to tender Dr. Carol Terry as an expert in forensic pathology.
I am afraid to object, Your Honor.
Go ahead.
Now, can you tell the jury what an autopsy is?
Okay. An autopsy is a medical procedure by which a body is examined both externally or from the outside as well as internally, looking at the organs to evaluate extent of disease and or injury.
And who or what factors determine whether or not an autopsy is performed?
Well, as I said, for us as medical examiners, it's dictated by state law, which cases are reported to the medical examiner's office. And again, these are deaths that are sudden, unexpected, unexplained, or due to non-natural causes. And then once it's reported to the medical examiner's office, it is left up to the discretion of the medical examiner what type of an examination is conducted, again, with the goal to determine a cause and manner of death for purposes of reporting on the death certificate.
Okay. And the procedures that you've testified to, are they generally accepted in the medical community?
Yes.
And you tell the jury, you're familiar with Dr. Joseph Parker?
John?
John Parker, excuse me.
Yes, I am.
And who is Dr. John Parker?
Dr. Parker was a mentor of mine. He worked at the Fulton County Medical Examiner's Office and also in Bibb County as the medical examiner in that area. He was responsible for some of my training, and ultimately when I went to DeKalb County to work for Dr. Gowett, it was because Dr. Parker had stepped down from that position. Dr. Parker, I worked with him in the Fulton County Medical Examiner's Office when I came on staff there. I think and thought the world of Dr. Parker. He passed away in 2012.
Okay. And was he the medical examiner that was, I guess, the head medical examiner that examined the remains of Melissa Wolfenbarger when they first came in?
Yes, he was the medical examiner who was on duty the day that the remains of Ms. Wolfenbarger were discovered.
Okay. And at any point did you assist in any type of investigation or analysis as it relates to the remains of Melissa Wolfenbarger?
Yes, I did.
Okay. And what period of time are we talking about where you would have been involved in any type of analysis regarding those remains?
My first direct interaction with the remains occurred in February of 2000 when I was turning over the skull along with some other skulls to the state's forensic artist, Marla Lawson, to do some facial reconstructions. I had a case of mine from 1998 that I wanted her to do a facial reconstruction on, and she had recently completed some training. Her skills as a forensic artist were legendary in the police department, but she had adopted or had taken on some new training in doing facial reconstructions off of the skulls using clay or paper mache, and so that's when I made her acquaintance in February of 2000. She came to my office to get the skull of the case I was handling, but she said, if you have any others that you want reconstructions on, she said, I'll bring a U-Haul if I have to, give me all that you have. And she, was taking on that work, and I had amassed the reports associated with these different cases, as well as investigation summaries, and was turning them over to her. And when she looked at this particular skull, she raised the question of the sex of the skull, because it was indicated to be a white male. And Marla, if you knew her, she was very modest, even though, you know, exquisitely talented, and said, this looks like a female to me.
You're saying.
All right.
Sustained.
All right. Let me ask you this. At that time in Fulton County, were you working with investigator Tina Miller?
She was a detective with the Atlanta Police Department, yes.
Okay. Did she also assist the Fulton County Medical Examiner's Office with investigations related to missing persons and or death investigations?
Not death investigations, missing persons, and unidentified remains.
Okay. Were you aware whether or not Detective Miller went out to that location where Melissa Wolfenbarger's remains were located at any point during the investigation?
Yes, she did.
Okay. And you familiar with the location being Avon Avenue in Atlanta, Georgia?
Yes, I am.
And is that in Fulton County?
Yes, it is.
Tell the jury what happens when, say, a body or remains come into the medical examiner's office.
Well, when the body comes into the medical examiner's office, the medical examiner on duty determines what kind of examination is going to be conducted on the remains, and then depending upon the case, that dictates what is done. Most of the time, the bodies are intact, and again, they may get what's called an external examination, just an outside viewing of the body and drawing of specimens for additional testing, or they may get an autopsy where the body is opened. And there may be a complete autopsy. In Fulton County at that time, we did not do limited dissections. We only did complete autopsies. So if an autopsy is done, it involves opening up the body and examining and removing the brain, as well as the organs of the chest and abdomen and pelvis. And in the course of the examination, specimens are collected for potential additional testing. Again, it depends upon the nature of the case.
Okay. And are any observations or conclusions, are they documented in any form during that process of performing the autopsy?
Yes. Typically, the examinations are documented with written notes and or dictations that are then converted into a final report.
Okay. And is there other forms of documenting the process of the autopsy itself?
Yes, also photographs are taken typically in the course of the examination.
Okay. At the conclusion of the autopsy, is there a process for reviewing or discussing observations that are made during the autopsy?
I don't know necessarily if at the conclusion of the examination, but in the Fulton County office, as we were associated with the training program through Emory, we routinely had teaching conferences and conferences where we would sit and review all of the slides that were taken, because at that point in time, things were done with 35 millimeter and slides were created. And every week we would have one or two conferences where we would go through all of the slides.
Okay. Now, in preparation for your testimony today, did you review any documents and or photographs associated with the autopsy of Melissa Wolfenbarger?
Yes, I did.
And what did you review?
Well, I reviewed, it turns out I had case notes that I had collected back at the time when I did this, when I was doing this review of the case, because I was very much interested in trying to identify remains. So I had copies of notes from the file, including some of the notes that I had made documenting some of the actions I had taken to try to get the remains identified. I also reviewed Dr. Parker's report. I reviewed any investigative reports that were in the file, as well as any photographs that were provided to me, because I did not have actual photographs from the examination.
Okay. And at any point during your work that you did associated with this case in particular, did you have an opportunity to either view any of the remains of Melissa Wolfenbarger, and if you could describe that for the jury.
Yes, I did.
And when did you do that?
Well, in February of 2000, when I was turning the skull over to Marla, that was my first time that I had an opportunity to look at the skull.
Oh, okay.
And I looked at the skull.
All right. And discuss any other opportunities that you've had to look at the remains of Melissa Wolfenbarger.
And after she was identified, I had the opportunity to go and retrieve some of the specimens that had been collected to follow up on requests made by the Atlanta Police Department's Detective Calhoun to submit specimens to the Georgia Bureau of Investigation, specifically for some drug testing.
Okay. And when you say specimens, are you referring to the extremities of remains that were located?
It was some soft tissue from the extremities, yes.
Okay. All right. Now, what, in terms of, initially, I believe your testimony that there was a process of conducting an identification. What did you do to identify the remains?
Okay. And then, two, I've also neglected to mention, also in the course of doing this, there were times when I went back to the remains, specifically the skull, to extract teeth or to take additional bone to submit for potential DNA analysis. So that was something else I also undertook with the knowledge of Dr. Parker to try to facilitate the identification. So what else I did, in addition to collecting and submitting specimens for DNA analysis, was, again, just became aware of features associated with the skull. For example, I did not need my records to refresh my memory that the skull had one filling in tooth number 31. That's something I've remembered all these years. There was one filling in that tooth. And that was something I was aware of as I was checking records and any cases came to my attention. Also, at this point in time when I was in Fulton County, I did have an interest in trying to identify unidentified remains. And I had a computer program where I took missing persons reports and locations of where people went missing and plotted them on this map along with where we had unidentified remains, trying to look and see if there's any kind of spatial relationship between where people have gone missing and where remains were found. So this is something is just about being aware of who's missing and who we have who are unidentified in our morgue. Some people have various other research interests. This was something I was very much interested in because as a forensic pathologist, one of our big goals is to answer questions. And to me, there's no bigger question than who somebody is. And that was something that was of interest to me. And so I was happy to do whatever I could to try to facilitate the identification in this case, and especially since Dr. Parker was kind of part-time with our office, so he wasn't always there. But this was something that was always on my mind.
Okay. And what was the process for identifying the skull that was retrieved in April of 1999?
Or how the skull came to be identified?
That's correct, yes.
Okay, because we had made attempts to have DNA pulled from the skull from the teeth.
Objection. Can we approach?
Sure.
And as far as the, was the Fulton County Medical Examiner's Office able to retrieve any records, dental records associated with this case itself?
Yes.
All right. Did you have an opportunity to review those records along with Dr. Hopple?
Yes.
And was that the basis for the determination of the identification of the skull?
Yes.
Okay. All right. Now, I'm going to hand you. Your Honor, with the court's permission, I'm going to hand Dr. Terry the following exhibits I'm going to read into the record.
Yes, sir.
Exhibits 34, 36, Exhibits 40 through 49, Exhibits 51 through 52, Exhibit 54, Exhibit 56 through 57, and Exhibits 60 through 61. All right. Terry, I'm going to hand you.
Hang on just one second. Can you all come here, please? Go ahead, Mr. Fawcett.
Hand you these exhibits. You could work in here. You could look at them.
Okay.
Okay. And after viewing those photographs, do you recognize those images as being associated with the remains of Melissa Wolfenbarger?
Yes, I do.
Do you recognize those images as being associated with the same remains that you viewed at the Fulton County Medical Examiner's Office in 2000?
Well, this doesn't specifically show the skull. Those are the remains I remember actually seeing, but I am certainly familiar with the photographs.
Okay. And are they a fair and accurate representation of what you recall observing?
Yes.
Your Honor, this time the state will move to tender into evidence. States Exhibit 34, 36, 40 through 49, 51, 52, 54, 56 through 57, and 60 through 61.
Mr. McDermott?
No objection.
Okay. They are admitted.
Now, what was your recollection after reviewing the documents as to when each of the skull and the extremities were located?
Well, the skull was located on April 29th of 1999, and the extremities were located June, let me double check here, I can't remember, the 2nd or 3rd, also of 1999. So let me find this. June 3rd, 1999.
Okay.
Mr. Fawcett,
Yes.
are you preparing to publish those photographs?
No, I'm not.
Okay, just
No, I'm not.
making sure we have a heads up before we do.
Absolutely, Judge. I am publishing States Exhibit 2. So I want to turn your attention to this States Exhibit. Is that area in itself familiar to you?
Just by virtue of the names, I don't recall ever having been out there myself.
Okay. And you recognize that as being the location where the skull and the extremities of Melissa Wolfenbarger
I
were
won't
located?
object, Your Honor. She says she doesn't have any knowledge, personal knowledge in this area.
I'm not sure that's exactly what she said, but overruled. Go ahead.
All right. You recognize that location, the street itself, as being the location where the remains, the skull, and the extremities of Melissa Wolfenbarger were located?
Yes, as I said, I'm familiar with the names, but I can't say that I directly went to that location, but I in my mind, had the skull associated with Avon Avenue.
Okay. And looking at that photograph, based on your review of your notes and your recollection, the image depicted in States Exhibit 2, is that generally the close proximity in which the remains, extremities, and the skull were located?
Yes, that is my understanding.
I do plan on publishing photographs at this point, Judge.
Okay. So, ladies and gentlemen, I told you that I would give you a heads up so you could sort of prepare yourselves that probably the next series of photographs are going to be somewhat graphic. Now, for those of you who are in the gallery, I encourage you, if it's not something that you want to see, to make arrangements so that you don't have to see it. Go ahead, Mr. Fawcett.
Yes. Now, Dr. Terry, you were testifying as to your, I guess, ability to review and examine the skull of Melissa Wolfenbarger?
Yes.
Okay. And I'm publishing States Exhibit 16. And just, could you describe the state of the skull that it was in when you viewed it?
All right, in this photograph, this is a decomposing head that was in the roadway. This is the head that I saw the skull from when I mentioned that I was turning the skull over for reconstruction purposes. But again, this is a photograph I'm familiar with as it pertains to the day that the head was found in the road there at Avon Avenue on April 29th, 1999.
Okay. And after viewing the skull, were you able to determine if there was any damage to it?
Yes, there was damage to the skull.
And what type of damage are you referring to?
On the left side of the skull, there were some fractures, and there was some bone in the roadway that were described in the report, as well as in an adjacent plastic bag. It appeared that the skull had been struck by a vehicle in the roadway.
Okay. And what does post-mortem mean?
Postmortem means after death.
And is there a distinction between injuries you would, I guess, damage to flesh or bone? Is there a difference between, I guess, pre and post-mortem?
Or antemortem, postmortem, yes. Before death versus after death, yes, there's a difference.
And what is it? What differences would you observe?
Well, typically differences that you see in antemortem injuries, the person's alive, so they still have a blood pressure, there's blood flow, and so when an individual is injured antemortem or before death, you have bleeding that's associated with injury. Postmortem or after death, there's no longer blood flow, and these injuries don't bleed.
I'm now going to show you what's been admitted at State's Exhibit 36. Can you tell the jury what we're looking at?
Okay, yes, this is one of the vertebrae that was associated with the head that was, or the decomposing head that was found in the road on Avon. And this is one side of this. It's a cervical vertebra, or a bone that's from the neck area. And you can tell because, can I touch the screen? Will
You
it-
can. You can enable that function, and you can actually tap on it and draw on it in colors.
Okay, let's see.
There's a button. I think it's off to the left on the bottom of the screen.
Okay. These structures here in this vertebra identify this as being a cervical vertebra or a bone from the spine in the area of the neck. And as we look at surfaces here of the bone, specifically those are articular surfaces where the bone would interface with adjacent vertebrae or bone. So in looking at this surface of as well as in this area here, this is where the bone would articulate or interface with the adjacent bone of the spine. And based on the review of the report as described by Dr. Parker, this would be the third cervical vertebra, so 3 down from the base of the skull.
I'm going to show you State's Exhibit 37. I can offer no assistance with getting the marks off the screen, though.
I think there's a clear button on the maybe bottom right.
There's something that says leave.
I don't think I want you to leave.
Oh.
No, ma'am.
Nope, sorry.
I might be able to do this.
Go ahead.
Yeah,
Yes.
Okay, all right. Okay, so this is the flip surface of that vertebra. And in looking at this surface here, specifically, oops. Can we bring that function back up? Okay. Specifically, these areas all appear to be kind of shaved off to the same level. And again, this is the reverse surface of that vertebra.
Now, when you are performing autopsies or working at the medical examiner's office, do you often use instruments to assist with that?
Yes, I do.
And what types of instruments do you use to, say, cut through bone or hard materials while you're working?
Typically, I use an oscillating or striker saw where I have a blade that will either spin or go back and forth to cut through bone. Another tool that I commonly use to cut through bone are basically like loppers, kind of garden shear type things used to cut like small tree branches, and we'll use those on ribs to remove the chest plate. Typically, we'll use the striker saw or the oscillating saw to open the head and to take sections of bone.
Now, did you also, were there also photographs of Ms. Wolfenbarger's extremities included in the photographs itself?
Yes.
Right. And did those extremities have flesh on them?
Yes, I did.
Okay. And let me ask you this: do you recall, either through photographs or reports, how the condition that the remains were found in?
Yes, I mean, they exhibited decomposition and had been dismembered or cut.
What about how the remains were stored?
There were plastic bags there. For example, with the skull, there was a plastic bag nearby, but the skull was in the roadway. And then the extremities were located in plastic bags. One set of remains, my understanding, was outside of a plastic bag.
Okay. And turning your attention back to the skull, and that's Exhibit 16, can you tell the jury, was there any sign of insect activity on the skull itself?
Not that I saw in any of the photographs or that I saw described.
Okay. Republished in States Exhibit 16. And what does that tell you, the absence of insect activity, maggots, fly larvae on the skull of Melissa Wolfenbarger?
Given the condition of the skull, that it was somehow protected from insects getting to it, flies getting to it. So understanding that there was a plastic bag nearby, most likely it had been in that plastic bag soon before it wound up in the roadway, because otherwise flies would have been attracted to it.
Okay. So if this skull had been out for a day or a full day, you would expect to find insect activity?
Yes, I would expect flies to have gotten to it and have laid eggs on it.
What is the impact of it being, say, double tied in a plastic bag? What is that impact on that?
Well, again, I don't know about double tied, but at least somehow being protected from insects getting to it. That would keep flies from being able to get to the remains and deposit eggs, and which then turn into maggots.
Okay. And does the storing of the remains in a sealed compartment like a plastic bag, does that impact any determination on the timing of death, or does that impact that at all?
Yes, I mean, it makes it harder because of the fact that it is, well, first of all, you don't know where it's stored, and it's confined in a plastic bag, which is going to interfere with decomposition and things of that nature. So it's going to make it harder.
Okay. And was your indication that the image depicted on States Exhibit 40, an image of a leg of Melissa Wolfenbarger, was your indication that that was in a protected plastic bag as well?
It would just, again, appear to be so because, again, we don't see any insect activity exhibited by this leg. So I would say that it was somewhere where it was protected from insects getting to it.
Okay. And you testified that there was some type of, something consistent with the saw on, I guess, the neck, the vertebrae that you testified to. Is that correct?
That is correct, and that's based on my observation as well as Dr. Parker's report as well. Again, looking at those surfaces, they appear to have been cut.
And were there other extremities or parts of Melissa Wolfenbarger's remains that also appeared to have the same type of saw cutting marks on them?
Yes, there were.
Okay. I'm going to show you State's Exhibit 41. Can you tell the court what we're looking at?
State's Exhibit 41, this appears to be the right lower leg and foot.
Okay. And State's Exhibit 42. Is that the plastic bag or a photo of one of the bags that the remains were stored in?
Yes, this is a photograph of one of the plastic bags that was associated with the remains.
Is that the type of storage vessel that could prevent insects from getting access to the remains inside?
Yes, if it's secured.
Is that also the type of storage vessel that could make it difficult to determine a time, a PMI?
Correct.
Time of death?
Yeah, postmortem interval, yes.
Okay. Is that something that you typically try to make an evaluation, the PMI postmortem interval, during your autopsy evaluation?
Well, I wouldn't say specifically, but it's something we generally write down descriptions of decompositional changes that can be used to opine as to a postmortem interval.
Okay. Would the temperature outside, say the weather conditions, would that impact it?
Yes, I mean, it depends on where the remains are. I mean, where are they stored? How are they stored? Temperature is certainly a big determining factor.
Okay. What about, you testified to this, what about insect activity?
Yes, insect activity, animal activity as well.
All right. Did you see any signs of animal activity on the remains of Melissa Wolfenbarger during your evaluation?
No, I did not see any evidence of animal activity on what I had to examine or on the photographs.
And what would you observe if you'd seen evidence of animal activity?
Okay. Typically, think about, like, say, dogs or carnivore type activity, chewing, gnawing on the bones, tearing of flesh, but especially with looking at the bones, looking at gnawing or scratching, and I did not see any of that indicated on the bones.
Okay. Show you what's been marked as State's Exhibit 43. Can you tell us what we're looking at?
That looks like some type of an article of clothing, maybe a sock. I don't know. It looks kind of muddy.
And State's Exhibit 46, what is that?
State's Exhibit 46 is the left foot, again showing decompositional changes and protruding out of the soft tissue. I see a segment of bone that's broken.
State's Exhibit 47. Can you tell us what we're looking at?
State's Exhibit 47, this appears to be part of an upper extremity, so upper arm and forearm.
And State's Exhibit 48.
State's Exhibit 48, again, this looks like some type of article of clothing, maybe sweatpants that are dirty and appear to be kind of breaking down or degenerating.
Okay. I'm now showing you Exhibit 51. Can you tell us what that is?
Okay, State's Exhibit 51 are the various portions of the extremities with flesh removed from some of these bones, and they're kind of placed out on the table.
Okay. And States Exhibit 54. You know what that is?
Okay, yes, State's Exhibit 54 is one of the bones showing a series of kind of roughly parallel disruptions of the bone, referred to as tool marks. These appear to be superficial cuts in this bone.
All right. Now, you tell the jury, is it different cutting bone with flesh on it versus cutting a bone that's been defleshed?
Yes, there is.
And what is the distinction, or what differences in those experiences have? Can you tell the jury?
Yes, it's harder to cut through bone, specifically with the types of saws that I use when there's flesh on there, because it just doesn't cut well through soft tissue or flesh. The types of saws that I typically use, the oscillating saws, are very good cutting bone, but not soft tissue.
Okay.
And it tends to catch on the soft tissue.
And when you say tends to catch, what does that mean?
The teeth tend to be somewhat fine, and the tissue gets in there, and it just kind of snags it, and again makes it hard to control, and difficult to cut.
All right. Showing you States Exhibit 56. Can you tell the jury what that is?
Okay, State's Exhibit 56. We're looking at bones from a lower leg. The thin bone that's at the bottom of the screen is the fibula, which is the thin bone that's in the lower leg area. And you can see the superficial cuts on it. And then the bone above it that looks more irregular, that's the tibia, and it is more broken than cut.
And you say superficial cuts.
Whoops.
Are you referring to that portion in the screen depicted now?
Yes, I believe that was in the previous exhibit.
Okay. And States Exhibit 60. Is that further example or signs of some type of mechanical device coming in contact with the bone of Melissa Wolfenbarger?
Yes, it is. That's an end of a bone that has been cut.
Okay. All right. Now, Dr. Terry, based on your review of the photographs and reports, are you able to make an independent determination as to the cause of death of Melissa Wolfenbarger?
Yes, I can.
And what was the cause of death of Melissa Wolfenbarger?
The cause of death is ruled by Dr. Parker, or my opinion?
Your opinion.
Okay, which I think are kind of subtly different. But my opinion is that the cause of death is undetermined due to dismemberment with concealment of the remains and decomposition, and also with incomplete recovery of the remains because the torso was not recovered.
All right. What can't you determine based off the things that are missing, the remains that are missing of Ms. Wolfenbarger?
I'm sorry, can you ask me that one more time?
Different way. Did you have enough? Let me ask you this: were you able to tell if Melissa Wolfenbarger was strangled?
No.
Why not?
Because of the decomposition of the remains and the lack of neck structures to examine. That makes determination of whether or not strangulation has occurred very difficult, if not impossible.
Okay. And can you determine whether or not Melissa Wolfenbarger was stabbed to death?
No, cannot.
Why not?
Again, we're missing the torso. Someone could have been stabbed or had other injuries inflicted on the torso that would have been responsible for the death, but you don't know because you don't have that part of the body to examine.
Is that the same difficulty you would have trying to determine if she was shot?
Absolutely, yes.
And is that ultimately why you're saying undetermined?
Yes, because the cause of death is undetermined here because we can't say precisely how she died, and it is confounded by the fact that you have incomplete recovery of the remains. They've also been dismembered. There's been concealment of the remains, and there's decomposition.
Okay. Now, what would you say as to the likely cause of Melissa Wolfenbarger's death?
Objection. Speculation.
She's an expert. I'm sorry.
You want to approach for a moment?
Sure.
Fawcett, if you'll rephrase, please.
Yes. Dr. Terry, is it likely that Melissa Wolfenbarger died of natural causes?
Given the circumstances, I would say that's very unlikely that she died of natural causes.
And if you could articulate why it is your determination is unlikely that she died of natural causes.
Again, the body's dismembered. There's an attempt to conceal by placing it in plastic bags. I don't have, she was, as far as I know, she was a young female. I have no information about any significant health conditions, but even so, the fact that she's dismembered and concealed is very suspicious for some sort of non-natural death.
Okay. And when you say suspicious for some type of non-natural death, could you be more specific? Are you referring to a homicide?
Yes, I'm saying that it's very suspicious for homicidal violence, given that she's dismembered, concealed. That is very suspicious. I can't say exactly how, but it is very suspicious.
All right. And the marks, the cuts, do you have a determination as to whether they're ante or post-mortem?
Yes, I'd have an opinion that it's most likely post-mortem.
And why is that?
Well, first of all, we don't see any discoloration of flesh associated with that. Second of all, just in terms of practically speaking, it would be very hard to dismember somebody while they're alive, and especially with the marks that tightly aggregated. You'd need to have somebody incapacitated or very significantly restrained to do that. And again, this is most consistent with something that has occurred post-mortem or after death.
All right. Now, in terms of the manner in which a homicide could have occurred, if say, for instance, Melissa Wolfenbarger was strangled, would you expect to see, I said, the presence of blood in and around the surrounding remains themselves?
No, would not.
Why is that?
Strangulation typically does not result in the liberation of blood.
Okay, and considering that possible manner of death, as well as the fact that,
I'm sorry, you said manner of death, that's a cause of death when we talk about strangulation. I'm sorry, just want to be precise about that.
let me ask you this. Did you, when you were doing your evaluation, did you consider the possibility that she was murdered at that location where remains were located?
I mean, that's a consideration, but I don't think it's a particularly good or valid one.
Okay, so your I guess your consideration during the autopsy was that the remains may have been placed there. She may have been murdered somewhere else.
Yes, if she were murdered, it was most likely somewhere else.
And just referencing things that could impact a timing of death or make that determination, would you have been able to tell if the remains had been, say, refrigerated?
Not necessarily, no. I mean, but again, she's been dismembered and she's in plastic bags. The remains could have been anywhere.
And if it had been, say, the remains were refrigerated, how would that have impacted a time of death determination?
That would slow down decomposition, much like if you take any meat and put it in your refrigerator. The refrigerator versus the freezer, it will slow how it degrades.
Okay. One moment, Judge.
Sure. Please be seated. Mr. Fossett, you may resume your examination.
Yes, Judge. Now, Dr. Terry, did you ever meet with Norma Patton?
Yes, I did.
And you recall around what time period that would have been?
I think it was March 19 of 2003.
Okay. And are you familiar with the process of collecting swabs or samples from individuals?
Yes.
And can you tell the jury whether or not you did that at the time you met with Ms. Patton?
Yes, I did.
And are you familiar with collecting samples from other items that you intend to have compared?
Yes.
And did you do that in this case?
Yes.
All right. And in particular, did you swab the extremities of Melissa Wolfenbarger that were located in this case?
No, the extremities were not swabbed.
Okay. What other item, a piece or body part was compared?
I'd actually have to check the record to see, but tissue from the extremities, bone or soft tissue, had been submitted for DNA.
Okay. All right. And is that the process that you use in your identifications for skulls as well as other parts as well?
It can be. Oftentimes with skulls, though, if we have dental, we will use dental to establish an identification rather than DNA.
Okay. I want to turn your attention back to some of the marks and the cutting that we were just testifying to. I'm going to show you State's Exhibit 66. Does that look like a saw to you?
Yes, that is a type of saw.
Okay. Are you familiar with the term, say, sawzall, or you with that term?
Yes, sawzall or reciprocating saw.
Okay. You familiar with the motion that type of saw makes?
Yes, I am.
You ever used one?
Yes, I have.
And the marks that you were testifying to in the bones of Melissa Wolfenbarger, is this the type of instrument that can make the type of cutting marks that you were testifying to?
It could make that type of mark, yes.
Based on your experience?
Yes, based on my experience.
That's all I have, Judge.
Thank you. Mr. McDermott, questions for this witness?
Yes, ma'am. Not many. Hello, Dr. Terry.
Hello.
You remember me?
Yes, I do.
We met just a couple of weeks ago, I believe it was, or?
Yes, we did.
Okay. And that was at your office?
That is correct.
We discussed several aspects about the case.
Yes, we did.
Okay. What methods, again, did you use to determine the identity of the skull?
The method that was used to determine the identity of the skull was dental.
And did you mention that you did x-rays?
Yes, x-rays were taken, or I had taken x-rays taken in the medical examiner's office.
Okay.
And that was to establish the dental.
And when you establish the identity through methods such as that, is it important to keep records?
Yes, it is.
Okay. And do you normally keep records when you do something like that?
Yes, records are kept in the medical examiner's office.
And did you preserve the x-rays in this case?
The x-rays should be preserved at the medical examiner's office, the Fulton County Medical Examiner's Office, yes.
And are you aware that no medical or no x-rays exist in this case currently?
I'm not aware of that, but there have been changes in the regimes over the years, and at that point in time, there was the hard copy x-rays, and we kept those x-rays there. Now, I have not worked in that office since 2004, so I don't know, but they were there at the time I left the office. And now so many things are digital, but those x-rays were there at the time I left the office.
Whose responsibility was it to preserve the x-rays?
It's, like I said, they're there in the office. They were maintained in the office, so I would imagine it'd be the records custodian for the Fulton County Medical Examiner's Office.
When you did the dental comparison based on the dental charts, not the x-rays, but the
Right.
charts, do you remember the x-rays that were given to you to start the comparison?
Yes, there were bite wing
I'm
x-ray.
sorry. I said x-rays. I meant dental charts.
Oh, the dental chart, I had documented in my note that there was one page of dental charts.
Okay. And do you remember where that came from?
It came from Detective Stott, S-T-O-T, from the Henry County Police Department.
And you remember the dentist?
I do not recall the dentist.
I wouldn't expect you to know his actual name. Do
I-
you remember what date that dental record was from?
It was from 1991.
1981. Melissa would have been 13 years old at that time.
I do not recall her date of birth.
Okay. If well, do you remember observing the remains of the head? You said the first time you saw it was when?
February of 2000,
Okay.
when I was turning them over to have a reconstruction done.
So you never saw it when it was not a skull?
That is correct. I just saw pictures.
Okay, so you've only seen pictures.
Up until that point, yes.
And in those pictures, you could tell that it's badly decomposed.
Yes.
And you mentioned that there were no flies on it, so that was probably a recent.
Right, that it had recently been exposed. I didn't see any fly eggs. I didn't see any fly eggs described on it. I did not see any maggots or maggots described as being associated with these remains, even though they were described as being badly decomposed.
Okay. And you remember that the other remains are in similar condition,
That is correct.
and they had been in these bags.
Correct, with the exception of the one that was out at the time of the discovery, but a bag was nearby.
And Mr. Fawcett discussed with you the concept of PMI, post-mortem interval, is that correct?
Correct, that is what
And
PMI stands
that's
for.
a fancy medical examiner way of saying how long ago did this die?
Correct.
Okay. Do you remember me asking you questions about PMI when we met?
I do.
And do you remember me asking you, based on the pictures of the skull and the remains that we saw, if that could have happened in a relatively short time?
I do remember you asking that, yes.
Okay. And do you remember answering yes?
Yes, that is a possibility, yes.
Okay. Do you remember me asking you specifically, would it have been conceivable to have gotten in that condition within 30 days?
I do remember you asking that, yes.
And your answer was yeah.
Yes, that's possible, yes.
Well, you didn't say just that's possible.
Oh, okay, well-
You said enthusiastically, yeah.
Well, I mean, again, it's possible. I wasn't having the conversation transcribed, you were recording it, but yes, it is possible. But there are a lot of variability or variables that go into how quickly something decomposes.
Okay. And we discussed those when we met, right? That they were in bags.
Yes, we did.
Those bags could have been exposed to sunlight.
Yes, the temperature, yes.
Temperature is very important to
Temperature.
decomposition.
It is very important to do.
And something in a black plastic bag in the sun would be warmer inside the bag than outside.
That is correct.
Okay.
I think I also mentioned we don't know where the plastic bags have been, too. They could be
Well,
stored somewhere.
it's fair to say, I'm sorry, did I stop your answer?
Oh, no, I was just going to say, there's just so many variables, it's difficult to say.
Yeah, that's my point to ask. When you normally do postmortem interval on remains that are found, it's usually an intact person.
That is correct.
And all those variables, you can calculate to some accuracy how long it's been.
Yes, some of those, we can, we have some knowledge of, yes.
But when a body has been dismembered, as in this case,
Dismembered, placed in plastic bags, potentially concealed,
pretty much all that calculation goes out the window.
Correct. There are just too many variables there to say what the postmortem interval is.
And I think you said to me, so it's like, could you say it's been days or weeks? Probably something like that.
Correct.
Okay.
It could be days, weeks, months, yes.
Thanks, all the questions I have, Your Honor.
Thank you, Mr. Fawcett. Any additional questions for this witness?
Now, you were talking about the different variables. Can you say, based off of the information you have, the photographs and the circumstances, that the remains were found when Melissa Wolfenbarger died? Can you say that?
I'm sorry, can I say?
Can you estimate a time of death?
Oh, no, I cannot estimate a time of death, no.
All right. And in terms of the variables that you were speaking with, would say the tying up of the remains in a bag and dropping them off at that location, can you say that they weren't there or that she didn't die in December, for instance, of '98? Can you say that?
No, I cannot.
And what type of variables prevent you from making that determination?
Again, she's been dismembered, placed in plastic bags. I don't know where these bags have been stored or for how long have they been at the location where they were when they were discovered. Just because they were discovered there doesn't mean that they've been stored there for a period of time. I don't know where they've been between the time of her death and when they're discovered. And I don't know when the time of her death actually occurred. So I don't know.
Okay, that's all I have, Judge.
Thank you, Mr. McDermott. Anything else?
Nothing further from the defense.
Thank you so much, Doctor. You may step down.
Thank you, Your Honor.